Okay, welcome back. I was talking about how using a file naming convention is an easy way to see if you can actually read and follow instructions. Uh, so moving on. So paraphrasing and plagiarism. So I wish I didn't have to talk about this, but plagiarism is a thing. It happens occasionally. What happens is somebody will turn something in where they just copied stuff from the internet or from somebody else's work. The rules are simple. Don't use other people's words. Now, there's an exception if you're using a quote. But the bottom line is you're not supposed to just copy somebody's text and paste it in your document. What you're supposed to do is read what they say and you go, oh, this is what they meant. So you type it in your own words. Okay, cool. All right, so here's kind of a generic grading rubric for how we do assignments. 20% is, can you read and follow instructions? Yeah. And then 35% is the good stuff, like the chapter specific objectives. Did you learn this or can you apply something? Did it work? Did you use best practices? And, spelling, grammar, and formatting, that's just kind of fluff stuff. I don't care. This is not an English course. So there's a thing called a journal. The purpose for the journal is to see if you're actually watching the videos and paying attention. I'm going to say that again. The purpose for the journals is to let me know if you're actually watching the videos, paying attention, and taking notes. Yeah. So typically there's two sections in there. One section is what I call trivia questions. These are questions just to see if you're paying attention. And they could have some context about the lecture. Could. It might be something radically different. It might be, what color shirt am I wearing? Right? Something has nothing to do with the lecture, but you'd have to be there to see. So the purpose for these things is to see if you're paying attention. Because, if this was a face-to-face class, it's pretty obvious to see if you're paying attention. But in an online course, I have no way of knowing. And then I'm going to be asking you some survey stuff. And so these things are required. These two sections are required to make a good score on a journal. And all right. So journals are 85% of your participation score. Now look, I'm going to be asking you questions about what was said and done. Maybe I'm telling a story and I'm going to ask you a little bit about, what was the story? Reference this. Okay. That kind of stuff. So it'd be a really good idea to have the lecture trivia questions handy while you're watching the video. I never want to be a scenario where you watch the videos, then you open the journal and go, well, heck, I don't remember that. I'm going to have to go watch the videos again. That's a really dumb idea. I never, ever intended you to have to watch the videos a second time. That's dumb. Makes better sense to have the lecture, the trivia questions handy while you're watching the video. Go, oh, he just talked about this one in question number 2. That's what I'm expecting. Okay, good. So late policy. Everything is due at 11:59, typically on a Sunday, except for the last week. I typically start grading the next morning, but I can't. I have a life too. I can't swear on a stack of Bibles that I'm going to be, finished by Monday. I try. The idea is that Monday I'm going to go through and grade your stuff and provide you an opportunity to resubmit. Now there is a late penalty, 5 points per day. So you may have make 100, but you were 4 days late. Well, 4 times 5 is 20, which means the most you can make for an assignment is an 80. Okay, good. And I mentioned resubmissions. Yes, you can resubmit an assignment. And let's say you turn it in on Tuesday. I don't even look at it during the week because it's due on Sunday. So the fact you turned it in early is not relevant here. So Monday morning, I open it up, I look at it and go, oops, you missed something here. And so you go, and so you fix it and resubmit, okay? But you're resubmitting it on Monday, and it was due on Sunday, so resubmissions incur a late penalty as well. So this is my grading history. Now, the purpose for this basically is to say, I'm not an easy A professor where everything, everyone makes an A, and I'm not hard as nails where everyone flunks. I will confess that this last column over here probably has very little to do with, the rigor and content of the course. It's mainly people who just give up, sign up for the course and just don't turn anything in. They abandon the course. So I have no choice but to give them an F. Outside of that, it's a halfway decent bell curve. I'm kind of proud of that. Okay. So feedback, I kind of mentioned feedback one more time. Let's go through it. You submit a document, I scribble on it. Hopefully my notes are helpful. not no, you made a mistake, but something a little more helpful, like, okay, review this section or look at this and select your notes or something. And then you can resubmit them. Now, I had a student that did this like 3 or 4 times. Every time they turn in an assignment, I'd make some comments, they would resubmit it, I'd make some more comments, resubmit it, make some more comments, and resubmit it over and over and over in an attempt to get a better grade. So things to look out for. So it's up to you to read the grading notes that I provide you. Feedback doesn't work if you don't read them. So there's personal feedback that only you can see. And I'm so keen on this concept of feedback that I've been known to put in what I call an Easter egg. I'll put a comment in your document that basically says, if you submit this code via Canvas email by midnight tonight, I'll give you 5 extra points on the next quiz. You think maybe I'm serious about this feedback stuff? Yeah, I really am. So in addition to your personal thing, I also have a thing in a discussion forum, which we'll talk about in just a minute, where everyone gets to see, like, the average score was an 84, there were 6 A's and 4 B's, that kind of stuff, and maybe some comments about individual questions where people had questions on. All right, so it's a great idea to watch your email immediately after, like, the due date or the grading period. Let me give you a scenario. So here I am Monday morning. I'm grading your stuff, and I bring up assignment 2, and I'm looking at it going, what the heck is this? Well, you accidentally submitted assignment 2 for your math course or something. So I have no choice but to give you a 0 and then send you an email saying, hey, I have no idea what the heck this is, but it's not assignment 2 for this course. And you go, oh, and you resubmit it. But, if you were not paying attention and not reading your email, if you went off on a fishing trip and came back 5 days later, you might go, oh, geez. Well, yeah, you're going to be generating a heck of a lot of late fees there. Okay. So how to read feedback. It's kind of important you understand this. I had a scenario years ago where the student was doing, not well in the course. And he said, well, how come I got a bad grade on this assignment? I said, because you didn't correct any of the things I pointed out in this assignment and in this assignment. You keep making the same mistakes over and over again. The guy says, what feedback? I went, you never looked at any of the feedback I gave you? No. Oh, man, okay. So it's up to you to read the feedback. So typically you're going to be submitting a Word document. Now, Canvas has this thing called a document viewer, okay? And so you get to see your document plus my annotations. So there's a difference between grade feedback and annotation feedback. Grade feedback is typically, great job, or, something very, very short. Annotation feedback is going to be comments inside your document, highlighting, circling, putting little tags, okay? So it's important to understand how to get to each one of these things. All right. So how do you read feedback? So if you're looking at it from the grade book, this over here is the honest to good grade feedback. See the little question or bubble there. That's useful, but typically it's only going to say, here's a classic one. If you submit something late, I'm going to say you made an 85, but minus 1 day times 5 points a day equals 80. Short, sweet, nothing really complex. On the other hand, if you click on the real assignment, or you go to the assignment system to begin with, then you get to see the document that you submitted plus my comments off to the side. This is where you're going to find the Easter egg. This is where hopefully you'll find constructive criticism on how to do better in the next time you resubmit something. Okay? Good. So a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Emmett Gray. I'm going to be your professor. I'm retired from civil service at Florida. I wasn't in the Army. I just worked for them. I'm a total geek, software author, programmer. I have a strange educational background. I have degrees in mathematics and engineering, plus computers. I don't have a PhD, so don't call me Dr. Gray. I do have a gazillion certifications that you're probably not interested in. I've been teaching it at the university for 15 years, and I'm one of the old timers. So I'm what's called an adjunct professor, which means I work part-time. So I do have an office in Founders Hall, room 323Q. I'm not there long enough to have a phone, but the College of Business Administration admin phone is here. I prefer Canvas email if you want to contact me because it keeps track of the context of your question if I know what class you're in. The university email is also acceptable. So during the summer semester, we typically don't have physical office hours, so virtual office hours, Zoom or whatever technology you have. And I can meet, arrange to schedule a meet face-to-face at the university if you need that. Okay, so that's enough about me. Now let's talk about you. So one of the questions I'm going to ask in the journal, the first journal, is where are you on this scale? And what I'm trying to get at is, how prepared you are, for this course. A 1 would be, I have no idea what the heck you're talking about. This is going to be a really tough class for me. I flip through the book and going, oh, geez, all these terms are foreign. I don't expect any of that. I also don't expect way off on the 10 side where you're like, I've been doing, risk management and security planning for 10 years. This is going to be a cakewalk. I don't expect that. Most people are going to be in, 3, 4, and 5 range. Like, I've heard these terms. Yeah, I know a little bit about this. I've got the prerequisites. I'm ready. Okay, so that's the end of that PowerPoint slide. I kind of mentioned that I don't really use PowerPoint that often. I mean, there's a couple of PowerPoint slides in here, but not many. All right, so now I'm going to go through basically a tour of the Canvas course. Hopefully you had Canvas before. So welcome. About this class, it's lecture heavy. The quizzes, assignments based upon what was said and done in lecture, not from the book. This is the online course. So, you basically, I try to make this thing absolutely identical to a face-to-face course. I mean, the exact same words being said, the exact same things up on the screen, the exact same assignments and quizzes. It's absolutely identical, as much as practical as a face-to-face course. Okay? All right. This is a summer course. And let me tell you, you're getting the exact same things for a 16-week course crammed into 8 weeks. I mean, you're going to have to use an awful lot of discipline because you just cannot fall behind. Course navigation. Okay, let's talk about it. What do you need to do first? Get a copy of the required textbook. Yeah. Watch the week 0 videos. You're doing that now. And then install Microsoft Office if you don't already have it. I assume most people already do. Okay, I'm just going to go through the list here. Now, this is the teacher's view, which means I can see a lot more than you can see. Only announcement I have is something coming up at the end of the semester. The syllabus, the simple syllabus, the web page that contains all this stuff. And so the first Sunday, there's 2 extra things due. Typically, there's only 3 things due. But this one has a syllabus quiz and a readiness survey. I'll talk about that in a minute. So 3 things, during the midterm and final, there's only 2 things. I'm going to go to modules. So modules is designed, this is where the guts of the stuff is. There's sections, a start here section, a supplemental materials section, weekly task and video lectures. That's what you're, every week you're going to go here and do whatever the heck it says for you to do. Okay. All right. I'm just going to click on one at random. It's basically going to say, okay, read chapters 5 and 6, watch these videos. Runtime is 2.5 hours. Do quiz 3, do assignment 3, turn in journal 3, right? It just gives you everything you need to do. And here are the videos broken up into 15-minute chunks, right? Okay, all making sense? Okay, we're coming up on the 15-minute mark again. So I'll see you guys in the next part.